The January 6th committee has been compelling new cooperation from a pivotal witness. And just to begin tonight, to get a sense of how large and significant this breakthrough is, recall it is the witness who Vice Chair Liz Cheney name-checked at the end of one of those recent investigative hearings, which was itself an unusual move because there's plenty of confidential negotiating and wrangling that goes on over time. So publicly calling out a witness who is ducking the committee is typically kind of a last resort. But that is what Congresswoman Cheney did to name and shame the top Trump White House lawyer, whom she memorably said was not fully cooperating at that time. You've probably heard his name by now, Pat Cipollone. Now, he had talked to the committee once, so he was not totally defying them like, say, Steve Bannon or Peter Navarro. They didn't get to the point of recommending a contempt citation where you can actually go on trial for a felony. But at the same time, he had not agreed to testify under oath. So Cheney led that public charge, which we then learned was the prelude to a subpoena. And this all worked, and fast. Now Cipollone will be testifying tomorrow under oath, on camera, in the main format that the committee's used, because you've probably seen some of those clips of those video depositions as they explore these issues and build up different parts of the story, the facts, the evidence they've gathered in these sometimes blockbuster hearings. But I want to make one more point about this tonight for you. We are seeing another crack here in how some key Trump veterans have tried to evade this probe. And it matters on both process and substance, because on process, it has been vital to Donald Trump's defense, such as it is, to try to delegitimize the entire committee probe, to try to taint its approach and its findings in advance. That's why we all remember Kevin McCarthy first was trying to place people like Jim Jordan to be on the committee up there. These hearings would be pretty different if he was there. That was trying to undermine it from within. And when Speaker Pelosi outmaneuvered the Republicans on that, saying that Republicans would be allowed on the committee, but not those with blatant conflicts of interest who might be involved in fomenting or helping the coup, well, McCarthy then came up with the backup idea of boycotting this whole thing to argue that then it would be partisan if they boycotted. Now, that failed so badly, even Trump has admitted that didn't work, and he complains they don't have representatives on the committee. Now, why am I telling you about this right now with Cipollone tomorrow? Because then you may have heard this next piece, this emphasis about parsing the available evidence. And if you listen to Trump allies over the last few weeks, especially as anxiety has been increased with the evidence piling up, they talk a lot about the committee's selective information or its, quote, hearsay testimony. But keep this in mind as the committee wins this months-long standoff with Mr. Cipollone tomorrow. What is hearsay? Well, in essence, it is basically, if you simplify it, secondhand information. For example, there has been some tantalizing leads that feature witnesses talking about what Cipollone said. That's secondhand in moments like these.
Mr. Cipollone and I had a brief private conversation where he said to me, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. This would be legally a terrible idea for us.
Pat Cipollone weighed in at one point, I remember saying, you know, that letter that this guy wants to send, that letter is a murder-suicide pact.
Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable. Pat was concerned it would look like we were obstructing justice or obstructing the Electoral College count.
Cipollone said it looks like we're obstructing an electoral law, or we're going to get charged, or it's going to be a murder-suicide pact if you get the DOJ in writing on record trying to join a coup. So that's just some of what Pat Cipollone reportedly said. And it is the kind of damning stuff that Trump allies have been protesting as, quote, hearsay. Because, as you just heard, other witnesses are indeed the ones recounting what Pat said without hearing from Pat. But if people think about this for 1 minute, and maybe they hope you won't, the reason some of that damning evidence has been limited to, quote, hearsay is not because of the committee. It's not because of those cooperating witnesses you just heard. All of them, by the way, Trump loyalists when it comes to policy and ideology, but just telling the truth about how he tried to use a coup to stay in government. No, the reason that stuff is secondhand is because of Pat Cipollone, just as other material is secondhand because of Mike Pence, because of the very Trump appointees who refuse to explain themselves under oath, to stand up like any responsible adult or tough person, if you want to put it in that faux courage mindset, and just say, hey, if you're not ashamed of what you did, if you didn't break any laws, if you're proud of what you did even, then just come explain it. These are the people ducking and running from that and then complaining about the supposed evidentiary shortcomings they created. This hearsay defense. The audacity. So tomorrow, this all blows up in their faces. Another one of these self-inflicted hearsay objections just goes up in smoke. This top lawyer will be compelled to explain under oath what he did. And we're interested in the facts. If he has some stories that are different or less harsh than what we just played you, then yes, we weigh that evidence under oath along with other witnesses and contemporaneous documentary material. But the committee wants to know whether he did warn Trump and other officials about crossing those criminal lines. That itself can be damning evidence of knowing corrupt intent if some of those people or then President Trump crossed those very criminal lines after getting that warning. The Attorney General and his prosecutors might want to know about that too. So the evidence will likely get fuller and stronger as soon as tomorrow. Meanwhile, one of Trump's top aides, former Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, is saying out loud that all this evidence has damaged Trump to the degree that both he and the entire party are facing this kind of drag for at least the next two elections, if not more.
What you're seeing, I think, is folks, especially in my party, are looking at Donald Trump as damaged and as well, something that might weigh down the party going into the midterms and into 2024.
Just like the top lawyer, that's the top aide. He was the #1 official in the Trump White House talking about Trump being damaged. And if you're checking, he just said that just now himself. It is not hearsay.